reasonably be said about the week of March 26, 2023, before it actually happens. So the first thing I want to say about this week is it's not last week. Last week was a big week. We had the Aries ingress, the Aries equinox. We had the Aries new moon. So we're getting started on the year. We had Pluto moving into Aquarius for the first time in 248 years, that he moved into the sign, that he ingressed, as we say, into the sign. And we had Mars leave Gemini, where it seems like he's been for 248 years, although it's only been since last August, September, and move into the sign of Cancer. So we had a lot of changes, and I feel that last week we really kind of felt it. Pluto at the last degrees of Capricorn was not easy, and as he steps into Aquarius, we see some things happening. Mars at the last degree of Gemini. Mars, the last degrees of Gemini, out of bounds, beyond the orbit of the sun, out of bounds, and moving very slowly. So we got a real, as Mars left Gemini, he reminded us that, Mars, an immutable sign, isn't necessarily any walk in the park. Coming off of his square to Neptune, there are a lot of stomach viruses and things going around. It's a little bit more the previous week and into the weekend. And then last week, we continued to see infections. Mars is an infectious kind of planet. It really heats things up, infection and inflammation, including the really horrible, scary stuff with eye drops that were going around at the end of last week. That's a big concern. And something that would hit the sensory organs is very Gemini. Mars in Gemini, all kinds of traffic things, although I don't know that we could really specify that as being something that is all that tremendously different from what we usually see. But it was definitely a tense week. I noticed a lot of people complaining of sleep disturbances last week. That sounds very much like Mars at the end of Gemini and out of bounds. And just generally, I feel that there was this kind of like waiting for the other shoe to drop sort of energy about the week. Anyway, that's what I heard from clients. And to be honest, that's what I felt a little bit of myself. So, there you have it. So Mars goes into Cancer, and that kind of sets the tone for a little while. Pluto goes into Aquarius, and that sets the tone for a long while. A couple of issues that came up over the course of the week that seemed to be very Pluto and Aquarius. One of them was the great focus that's been on artificial intelligence, which is a very Aquarian issue. And then the whole, is this getting out of control? Is this getting beyond our control? And Pluto tends to bring things beyond our control, or give us the sense that things are beyond our control. Also, social media. Social media has been a big topic. How are we going to regulate this? What's the damage it's doing, and all of this type of thing for a long time. Certainly Saturn's trip through Aquarius really brought this to the fore for us as well. With Pluto, though, on the day that Pluto ingresses into Aquarius, the CEO of TikTok testifying before Congress. That's a big deal, because that's not only regulating social media. And then there's the thing, should we ban TikTok? Should we stop it? Because TikTok is a Chinese company. And so this is like, now it's not just social media Aquarius. Now it is international tensions that are going on. And of course, what's the Plutonian angle of TikTok is they're spying on us, right? They're taking our data. We don't know what they're doing. And it all seems to me like TikTok is, cute videos about, German shepherds and how to make cheesecake and things like that. I'm not on TikTok, but people show me things. But they're in the process. There are other things that people are looking at, and they're also just mining that data, and it's going over to some very unsavory folks. So this is a very Pluto in Aquarius kind of issue. What's going on? What is happening with this aspect of social media? Can we regulate it? Can we regulate artificial intelligence? Is that getting away from us? You see, it's the Plutonian things are out of control that come to the fore. Okay, now Mars goes into Cancer, and Cancer, a very conservative, not politically, although not not politically, but conservative, traditional, protective sign. And so Mars comes into this sign, and Mars in Cancer fights for the clan. It's my people. Not even so much me and my people. It's my people, right? This is whatever you're identifying with. It's my family. It's my ethnicity. It's my country. It's not that expansive kind of energy of like, let's look and see, what's good for everybody. Let's fight for a principle or something like that. It's like, no, we got to watch out for ourselves. Not the easiest energy to deal with. I mean, can be quite helpful in some respects, but it's not necessarily what we get when we're trying to broker agreements. Now, as Mars goes into the beginning of Cancer and Pluto is in the beginning of Aquarius, they are what we call quincunx to each other. They're in signs that have nothing in common. And you think, well, they have nothing in common. Everybody just goes their own way. It'd be terrific if that were the case. However, the unfortunate truth is that with Mars at 0 degrees of Cancer, which is what we call the world axis, it tends to be kind of important stuff happens at 0 degrees Cancer. And Pluto, very powerful at 0 degrees Aquarius, we feel this tension as the week begins. This is a tense time over here between these two planets. These two planets that otherwise kind of get along well together are going to be in, they cause trouble together. They like it, Now that's an oversimplification, but they're in this awkward relationship with each other. It's a little difficult for us to work with. And again, most of this shows up at the collective. However, as I always say, we are the collective. And I think that one aspect of this that is bound to show up is that we'll have a little bit of personal discomfort as well. Some of the political, social issues that are so contentious right now, I mean, they're definitely filtering into every level of our communities, our neighborhoods. We're feeling it between family members. This is not necessarily something that is just on the news. This is something that we were arguing about around the dinner table, or perhaps we're trying not to argue about it around the dinner table. I could see where Mars in Cancer is looking at Pluto in Aquarius and saying, wow, I might disagree with you, but whatever's going on out there is so freaking scary that, like, we got to band together. A little bit of that Mars in Cancer energy. So we're not having the big changes that we had last week, but we have the fallout from those big changes. One good thing is that the moon has relatively harmonious aspects through a good part of this week. Luna is just pulling away from the other planets, which means that generally speaking, as she moves out into the the territory where nobody else is, because the planets are all kind of wedged together. And as the moon moves away from all the other planets, she's making basically harmonious aspects, and that kind of helps. That's certainly, I think Monday is a great day to get stuff going. And I would say that a good part of this week, despite all the tensions that might be underlying things, is a pretty good time to get stuff going. We do have some aspects that have a lot to do with communication. Now on Monday, we have Mercury in two really interesting aspects. On the one hand, at late, in mid-Aries, he's squaring Pallas Athene. And you know where Pallas Athene is? She's in Cancer. She's out there waiting for Mars. She retrograded in the sign, and Pallas Athene is also ready to shout the cause of our clan, our people type of thing. Mercury and Aries, much more individual. It's about me. And so they're in a square relationship with each other, very much getting that information out there, having a bit of a debate. That debate could be internal. And then Mercury also conjuncts Jupiter in Aries. Now, generally speaking, Monday's got a lot of harmonious lunar aspects. The moon is waxing. I would say this is a pretty good time. All in all, it's a pretty good time. But with Mercury conjunct Jupiter in Aries, we're looking at people that are going to just shoot their mouths off. This is just, just say it right away. There's not going to be much of a filter on people when it comes to this, especially with the moon in Gemini. The moon is in Gemini, just ready to, help you just get the words out there. And so what we're looking at here is, yeah, it's not even being up on the soapbox. It really isn't. It is just people that are just going to shoot their mouths off. You may let a little too much information out. You may say it and then say, oh, I wish I hadn't have said that. You probably really mean it, but maybe you shouldn't have said it, or maybe you shouldn't have said it in that way. There's a kind of, it's funny, as Mars leaves Gemini and things get a little bit less hot verbally, this Mercury Jupiter aspect with the Gemini moon kind of like says, well, Mars is gone, but we still say things, so definitely a little bit of a sparking tension, say what you think kind of thing. Powder keg. I'd be careful with the way people are driving too. I say that just about every week, and believe me, just be very careful driving. It's a blanket thing. Now, as we sail through midweek, and we're going to be sailing because the moon is in the watery sign of Cancer. As we sail through midweek, the moon is in the watery sign of Cancer, and that favors that protective energy of Mars and Pallas Athene and that sort of conservative, cautious vibe. But for the first time since 2008, for the first time in about 15 years, the moon in Cancer will not be aspecting Pluto. But since 2008, every time the moon got into Cancer, she was opposite Pluto. Back in 2008, as soon as she got into Cancer, she was opposite Pluto. Back in 2023, with Pluto at the end of the sign, we had to go all the way through Cancer before she hit it. So she either opposed Pluto right away, like here's a knock on the chin, now go about your business. That wasn't great. Or the knock on the chin is coming in the future. That wasn't always so comfortable either. For a change, the moon will not be aspecting Pluto when she's in Cancer. And we'll get to see what that feels like at midweek. It doesn't take away from that conservative, somewhat even reactive vibe of the sign, but the moon may actually, over the coming months, get a chance, and years, when Pluto finally stays in Aquarius, the moon may actually get a chance to sort of work on some of the more nurturing maternal aspects of the sign, as opposed to the more reactive and protective aspects. We'll get a chance to see. What we'll get a chance to see too is on Thursday. We have some really interesting energy. First of all, Mars will trine Saturn, very beginning of Cancer to the very beginning of Pisces. Now, I don't think either of these planets are terribly happy in the signs that they're in, but Saturn does a world of good for Mars because it helps to steady the energy. Something that we'll be feeling at midweek as the moon is in Cancer. So Saturn's got a bit of a steadying hand. He's kind of rocking back and forth at sea in Pisces, so it's not like he's in Capricorn, but it's a steadying hand. It's a steadying hand. I would say that, again, beginning of the week is really good thanks to the nice lunar aspects, even if people are going to say too much. Midweek, pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff. If you want to get stuff done, if you're looking for doing things, don't assume that everybody is going to be, all cheery and stuff like that. But it's a pretty good energy. It helps you to focus. Ironically, Saturn in Pisces is kind of a multitasker, which he doesn't like at all. He doesn't like being a multitasker. But Mars is in Cancer, where it can be a little directed. So, yeah, directed energy, pretty good at midweek. And on Thursday also, and this is something we'll be feeling Wednesday, Thursday, right in that area, Venus meets with Uranus. Okay, so the planet of love, relationship, aesthetics, beauty, a planet that has a lot to do with finances, runs into Uranus, the planet of sudden changes, revolution. Well, this could be an opportunity for really changing things up in relationship. It could be an opportunity to try something or someone new in relationship. It is certainly suggesting that we break out of the box with our patterns of enjoyment and socializing, that, we free ourselves to do what we want to do. That would be the good keyword. It frees you to do what you want to do. And then Mars and Saturn will help you to do it. Financially, there could be some real changes. I would have to say, though, that remember, this is all happening in Venus's sign of Taurus. And because Venus is in Taurus and Uranus is answering to Venus in her home sign, things should go pretty well. So, there could be a switch of fortunes in the financial markets, particularly I would think commodity markets, but it's probably could be to the upside. It could be something that is going to be looked upon as positive. We may get some really interesting news about some new artistic project, a new album coming out from somebody that sort of breaks the mold of what they're used to doing. We don't pay a lot of attention to the fine arts anymore, but if you're attached to that area, if you know something about that area, you may find out that could be a new exhibit at the museum or something like that. I don't know. I'm reaching over here, but there could be definitely some new aesthetic experiences available to us. So keep an eye out for that. That's a midweek thing. That's, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Now, as we get to the weekend, the moon goes into Leo. And for both Friday and Saturday nights, the waxing moon will be in Leo. So we have the activity of the first quarter moon in Cancer, supported by Mars and Saturn, were helping us to be very active. And certainly then the Venus, Uranus helping us to mix things up and change things up. And then the moon goes into Leo. And for Friday and Saturday, we have that nice Leonine vibe that is really great for just going out, having a good time, doing what you please. It's not about going out, stay in. It's the Leonine feeling of you do what you want to do, which is very much what Venus and Uranus were saying. Do what you want to do, what feels good to you, what seems like it's the right thing for you. It doesn't have to be the right thing. It's just, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing kind of thing. Breaking out of the box, doing your own thing, having a good time. It should be a really good weekend with the waxing moon in Leo. If Mars and Pluto and all the rest of them don't give us too much trouble. Anyways, we'll be back. I'll be back next week. Hey, I hope you're back too. Then we can say that we'll be back next week.